On the left of your screen is Len Lenihan. He is the Erie County Democratic Chairman. He is an Andrew Cuomo supporter. And beside him is Nick Langworthy. He is Erie County's Republican chair and arguably Carl Palladino's biggest fan. Now, gentlemen, thanks so much for your time tonight. It's great to see you both.
Nice to see you, Liz.
Nice to see you, Liz.
Okay, so let's get started by having me ask you this. There are these stories that are coming out in the media now, most of the downstate media, about Carl Palladino renting space to Planned Parenthood, for example, even though he's very much against abortion. Or Carl Palladino's son running a gay bar that he then switched to be a straight bar, and these are hypocritical things for Carl Palladino and his family to do. None of this can come as any great surprise to anybody who lives in Buffalo.
Well, certainly, Carl owns a lot of property, and he is has extensive holdings throughout Buffalo and Western New York. There's no doubt about that.
And so, did you think when you read these things or saw these things, did you think, oh, is it fair to call him a hypocrite, for example, for renting space, Nick, to Planned Parenthood when he says that he's against abortion, even in cases of rape and incest?
Well, I definitely do not believe it's hypocritical, given the fact that Carl recently, this is my understanding of the situation, is that Carl has recently acquired a piece of property to build a Rite Aid, which he has extensive Rite Aid holdings across the state, and was forced to demolish the existing home of the Planned Parenthood location. So he had to, under the terms of the contract, find adequate space for the Planned Parenthood clinic to be relocated. I mean, he's bound to contracts, and it's something that he has done throughout his business career, and has to live up to those terms. So I don't believe, certainly he is not a proponent of abortion, but finds himself in a situation in a business transaction that he has to provide that under the terms of the contract.
I think the problem has been that when it comes to the issue of choice, a lot of people feel, and I think you can make the case, that he has an extreme position. There's be no choice on any, even regarding rape or incest. And then to rent to a property to Planned Parenthood at least appears certainly inconsistent. And certainly in the brouhaha that's gone on the last week over the issue of gay rights, again, he certainly, the appearance there is he's inconsistent in his beliefs, because he's made those two hot-button issues very much a centerpiece of his campaign.
I mean, Carl is a live and let live guy. I mean, as he said in the days, post his interview with the rabbis, and he, has treated people here in the Buffalo community very fairly, including people in the gay community. And being that he has had business relationships through his son and through his company with gay people, and that is not hypocritical in the least bit.
Len, do you agree with that? Do you agree that the treatment and the reputation that Carl Palladino has in the Buffalo community, in Western New York at any rate, is that he's a fair individual?
Carl is an outspoken individual, and he really, I said when he announced his candidacy, a couple of reporters came into my headquarters, and I said he's very passionate, and he will speak loudly and clearly to the things that he believes in. Unfortunately, a lot of the things, the way the campaign has been run, have given the appearance of inconsistency, and if not, just outright chaos. I think certainly in the last 2 weeks, obviously there's been controversial issues. At the same time, it's given the appearance that his campaign is not structured well, disciplined, and well ordered, and that also raises questions about his ability to manage the state. If you can't run your own campaign, can you really run the state of New York? And I think that's what's hurting him, particularly here in Western New York.
Do you agree with that, Nick? I mean, he does make a point. If you can't run a campaign, a state is a much larger enterprise.
Carl Palladino has a 40-year career as a builder in this community and across his state, and has created jobs and created wealth. He's created a lot more jobs than Andrew Cuomo ever has, and that's for sure, and the record's very clear on that. So there's been a rough couple of weeks here on the campaign trail. Let's make no mistake. But this is about issues, and you're going to see this campaign get back on the issues of jobs. And the reason that Carl's running in the first place, which is to shrink the size and the scope of New York State government, and lower taxes, because people are hurting, Len. I mean, they really are, and it's Democrat government that's brought these problems on.
Well, this election is not to choose, the best developer in Buffalo. It's to choose the next governor of New York State. And one of the reasons experience counts is that Carl clearly has none when it comes to government, when it comes to managing public affairs, which is a very complicated, complex entity on a daily basis. So. On the other hand, Andrew Cuomo has run one of the biggest departments in the federal government, housing and urban development. Obviously was elected statewide before, has run the Attorney General's office, has gotten exceedingly just great marks for his, not only for his advocacy, but his management of that department. So I think that gives him the upper hand in going into this election. On top of the fact, if you don't mind me veering into another issue, is the issue of unity. I mean, the Democratic Party is united clearly behind the candidacy of Andrew Cuomo. We have seen in the last week the Republican Party really sort of, not just the campaign falling off its wheels, but, the Republican Party itself. I mean, the Business Council, clearly an organization that at least leans toward the Republicans, in their major endorsement in this campaign, endorsed Cuomo over Palladino. The Republican County Executive Onondaga County, Joni Mahoney, and she's an up-and-coming star in her party, endorsed Palladino, or endorsed Cuomo over Palladino.
Yeah,
so I think the Republican Party...
Excuse me, just for 1 second, though. Do you think how much of that do you think is really about love for Andrew Cuomo and unity behind Andrew Cuomo, and not just a running away from Carl Palladino and some of the controversy that he has created? Do you really believe that Democrats feel united behind Andrew Cuomo or against Carl Palladino, which is really saying two different things?
Well, there's no question. Andrew Cuomo is an extremely popular Attorney General. His ratings favorability has been in the 60s throughout the whole year. Now in the late part of the combat, it's come down a touch. But no, this party is united behind Andrew Cuomo. People were calling on Andrew Cuomo to get into this race before he was even in it. So there's no doubt that this party is united behind him. At the same time, and I think Steve Greenberg, Liz, the other day on your program said that, in many respects, Palladino is helping us to get the vote out. I mean, he has really hit on a number of constituencies in our party and rallied them, at a time when, it's always tough to get the vote out. But I think between, the achievements and performance that Andrew Cuomo's had in office and frankly, some of the gaffes on the Republican side, this party's ready to take a major victory. I think we have a good chance to run the table on Election Day.
Well, Andrew Cuomo represents the status quo, and if you want to claim a victory is more of the same, then vote Democrat this fall. Andrew Cuomo has sat idly by for the last 4 years while Albany and the establishment has burned. And if you want to take that record into 4 more years, God bless. But really, the people are looking for someone that is going to be a bold and decisive leader and shake Albany up. We need a change, and the change is Carl Palladino.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on,
Len,
1 second. Let me just ask you this, though, Nick. You've got candidates, Republicans, saying you've got 2 statewide candidates, Harry Wilson and Dan Donovan, running for state comptroller and AG, respectively. Don't want anything to do with Carl Palladino. You have various different candidates up and down the legislative ticket saying they don't not just not want to campaign with him. They don't want to vote for him. So how can you say necessarily that the Republican Party is united behind him, because it doesn't seem to me that they are?
I didn't say that it's a one united front. There's differences of opinion, just like there are still in the Democrat Party. That's why the Freedom Party exists today. There's issues with the African American population in the ticket and them not being represented. But what we do have is we have different candidates running different campaigns. I mean, Harry Wilson's running as state controller. He doesn't believe that he should be endorsing candidates for public office. You have Dan Donovan, who is going to stick to a district attorney's oath of office that he's taken. I'm not aware of the strategy behind that, but I do know that Carl Palladino is going to campaign on a message of changing Albany, cutting taxes and cutting the spending in this state, which the Democratic Party for the last 4 years has escalated greatly.
By the way, Liz, on the issue of cleaning up Albany, it's easy to, when a prosecutor's in office, to prosecute the other team, the other side. And certainly that goes on in government. But Andrew Cuomo has shown his commitment to cleaning up Albany by taking on 2 Democratic members of, one, Senator Pedro Espada, clearly somebody that needed to be dealt with. And Cuomo really brought him down. It was a big reason he didn't win his election. And of course, recently the charges against Alan Hevesy were brought by a very aggressive, professional prosecution carried out by Andrew Cuomo. He took on members of his own party because it was the right thing to do, and he did the public's work. That shows he can be, as governor, he can do the job. If he has to take on, different members of our party in the state legislature to get the job done, he will do it. I don't think anybody doubts that for 1 minute.
And what about Nick's point to the fact that you have someone like Charles Barron, who is a Brooklyn, New York City councilman running on the Freedom Party line and saying that has been ignoring on the part of the Democratic Party of the African American community? I mean, certainly there are no members of color, there are no people of color on the statewide Democratic ticket. Or the Republican ticket, to be fair. There are no people of color on the Republican side either, just to be fair.
Well, the executive director of the Democratic Party in New York State is Charlie King, and he's, virtually running this campaign.
Well, you should have
He's not running for office.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not. But, I don't think anybody's going to say for 1 minute the Democratic Party is not a party of diversity. I mean, I think the reason that Palladino has got himself in trouble over the past couple of weeks is over the issue of diversity. And it's within the Democratic Party constituencies where that diversity exists. And keep in mind, we supported David Patterson for lieutenant governor. He became governor. I don't think anybody, we've got Kirsten Gillibrand on the ticket. I don't think anybody for 1 second is going to say that the Democratic Party is not diverse.
Nick, you're shaking your head.
I think the fact that he had to explain that for 2 minutes is the reason that we have this problem. Carl Palladino is a live and let live guy. I mean, we started this conversation to talk about some of the comments that he made with Rabbi Levin last Sunday night. And we are really in a position now where the campaign needs to return to the issues at hand, and that's really, the fiscal issues and where each of these men feel that Albany needs to go. Where do we, as New York State taxpayers, where should we take our government? And Carl's plan to cut taxes and to cut spending are really just what the doctor ordered, and what we need to really make this a better place to live, make it a better business climate, make it a place that we can create jobs in.
I'd point out that Andrew Cuomo has already issued detailed plans for job creation.
Have you read those?
Over the summer, I certainly looked at many of them, and also tax credits, $3,000 tax credit to create a job. Now, yesterday, Mr. Palladino was supposed to release his job plan, and it didn't happen because they were bogged down in other things. The Cuomo campaign is run in an orderly, structured way. Information is being given to the public. He'll run the government that way.
You get the last word.
When you have $25 million of special interest money to fund your campaign, you can have the most orderly, structured political hitmen to come out every single day and attack a candidate. So I believe that
he's raised that money because he's a popular candidate. That's why
I believe that in this state we can still have a regular person run for office, and it doesn't have to be a political dynasty in order to become governor.
We should say that Carl Palladino is quite a wealthy guy. He's not necessarily the most average Joe, but fair enough. Okay, I want to thank you both very much, Len Lenihan, Democratic Chairman of Erie County, and also Nick Langworthy, GOP Chairman, Erie County. You've been good to come on. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Liz. Nice to be with you.
Thanks, Liz.